Well, Mr. Marks at YAF, um, I'd say that that video is your reality. And I mean that in a very particular way, pointing to sort of the Freudian concept that fantasy, as in the reaction to fears and anxiety, irrational paranoias, are what undermines our constructs or gives our reality its value. And that video of a room of racially consistent individuals, all of one race, with clear nationalist identity, clearly nationalist propagation, viewing a world of masters and slaves, presenting at this supposedly dominant future educational institution a theory of the entire process of history, which takes a minute. And also just the very ideal of a communist system. They're going so back to its cultural revolution, to feeding the United States in the free market because the United States doesn't become more conservative. These kind of preposterous fantasies of fear, of paranoia, of impotence, of lack of, well, look at the guy. He's clearly never kissed a girl. Come on. But beyond that, beyond what potentially maybe homosexual urges he's restraining or whatever the cause of his anxiety is, that is clearly his reality already. That image is viscerally clearly how he sees the world. The only thing that he wants to see different between that authoritarian, autocratic, unthinking, racially monolithic civilization and the reality future he wants is he wants to be in that box. He wants to be in the room. He wants to be in that world where history is understood in the minute, where national identity is communicated through mindless, visceral objects on the surface. And, the whole point is she wants to make sure that it's he and not the Chinese, and is a kind of a deep, in the whole commercial, there's a deep fantasy play of kind of projected desire. And much of the Tea Party really wants to live in a world which is depicted in this movie, but inverted as being Chinese, a world of simple nationalist images, simple nationalists, very, very simplistic ideals, educational systems or ideological systems that have no question for doubt. There's no point for questions. The students sit and passively observe the material. There's absolutely no student raises a question and says, particularly like something like, well, weren't the people of Britain better off when their empire fell down, sir? Or, could you really say that the Roman Empire fell apart anyways, after all, Constantinople continued for centuries after that, the Roman Catholic Church and the entire, Western tradition preserved after that. Couldn't you argue that maybe, different perspectives, different views? No, that's not the kind of fantasy reality in which YAF is trying to exist. They can't exist in that reality. What they need is they need simple, straightforward answers in a world in there. And the fear in this is a kind of fear of castration of the Chinese, the little laughing Chinamen, taking away the visceral authority, male power that they want, and holding this to it. I mean, it's the whole response to it is a desperate anxiety of a castration fear that this kind of thinking that George Bush endlessly indulged in, that the United States was the end of history, God had written it, that was it, blah, 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 that actually this kind of idiotic ideal that was moronic when Bush was supporting it would actually be taken over and held by a different people. Having a lot of dealings with Chinese, the Chinese are happy to make money and they want to be left alone. I think a concern that somehow they're going to take the world over, particularly, why would they want to do that? They definitely want a prosperous America so they could sell more things to it. That's the way global capitalist system works. It isn't conquest by nations anymore. And that's the real issues, is whether this system is sustainable of exchange, which isn't even referenced. There's no references to the environmental impact. There's no references to regulation of cyber trading, of cyber issues like that. It's just in this Chinese professor video, it's just a man comes in to the dominant Chinese and tells them the whole theory of the world in 1 minute. In fact, with the pictures in the back and the way the teacher works and the way he puts his hands around and the way the boards bring up and the way he comes with his simplistic answers, it really looks like the fear here is that China will have its own Glenn Beck. And I think that's Yaf's real fear, that in the end, there'll be a Chinese Glenn Beck laughing at you, just like Glenn Beck is out there laughing at the rest of the world. And to be quite frank, if the Tea Party movement wins over, now actually, I have a word for you, Yaf. The whole world is laughing at America nowadays when they're not scared shitless of nutcases like you guys. Probably the world will be a safer place when people aren't so scared anymore and they can just laugh.